Two great iconic bands of the 80s had put out a best of album. We have, two of the greatest bands of the 1980s, should I say. How's it going, old schoolers? You're kicking it old school with Russell J.S., and I am your host, Russell J.S. Please forgive me, I just got out of the shower and I just completed a workout, did some cardio, which I'm starting to really get into lately. I'm trying to lose, a little bit of my belly fat so that way, I can be a little healthy, and I've been eating a lot healthier so I get better sleep at night. So you have to forgive me. I'm a little out of breath right now. Anyway, two best of albums are going to duke it out in a album versus album, track by track. You've got Motley Crue Greatest Hits, the first Greatest Hits album since Decade of Decadence from 1991, and Van Halen's first Best of Volume 1. Now, what I did, because Motley Crue Greatest Hits has got, let's see, how many tracks here? I don't have my glasses on. It's got 19 tracks, and Best of Volume 1 has 17. So I added a few tracks. I went ahead and I added a few tracks just to keep everything even. And also, if you're new to the channel, I want to remind you that if you're new to the channel, please hit a like, subscribe, leave comments down in the box below. Tell all your friends about it. And, it'll be good for the algorithms. And also help build the channel. So, we've got Motley Crue Greatest Hits and Van Halen Best of Volume 1. Let's see how these bad Oscars go toe-to-toe against each other, shall we, in a track-by-track? Now, I did eliminate a track off of Best of Volume 1 because it wasn't really much of a song. It was just, I'm sure you already know what it is. It was Eddie doing an instrumental, showing off his guitar skills. So there's going to be one track off of that eliminated. And I also added a song at number 20 for Motley Crue, which was supposed to be track number 4, but it's going to be at the bottom. But I'll go ahead and I'll fix that as we go along. So, without any further delay, let's see how these bad Oscars add up, shall we? Okay, Too Fast for Love versus Ain't Talking About Love. Well, in musicianship-wise, Motley was doing Too Fast for Love. They're trying to make it, like they're raunchy and they're hardcore and they're fast and everything. And Ain't Talking About Love kind of has that vibe of, the music-wise, it's got that vibe of Zeppelin and Hendrix and, The Who all in one. And if anything, I actually prefer Ain't Talking About Love over Too Fast for Love. Track number 2, Shout at the Devil versus Running with the Devil. I love Running with the Devil. It is an awesome song. It is one of Van Halen's all-time greatest tracks. And Shout at the Devil, I just love Tommy Lee's, Tommy Lee, the way Tommy Lee and Tommy Lee on drums, Nikki Sixx on bass, and Mick Mars on the guitar, how they, and then, like Vince, with that high-pitched howl, it's so awesome. It's like AC/DC on crack. And, well, I love both the tracks, so point for both. All right. Now, a track that I added I added a track to Greatest Hits of Motley Crue because they neglected to put this one in here because to me it's one of their greatest, and it's going up against Dance the Night Away, Live Wire versus Dance the Night Away. Once again, Motley Crue doing that whole AC/DC on speed, or on steroids, going against Dance the Night Away by Van Halen. Yeah, sure, that was a number one commercial successful single for Van Halen. It's okay, it's kind of mediocre, so I have to go with Live Wire. And then we've got Looks That Kill versus The Cradle Will Rock. Very overplayed song by Motley. It was really good. The video was cool. It was awesome. But, Van Halen really kicks it here. So Van Halen gets the point. And let's see. Too Young to Fall in Love versus Everybody Wants Some. I'm not really a big fan of Too Young to Fall in Love, so Van Halen takes that one. Yeah, this is not looking good. Motley, as far as points go, Van Halen is 2 points ahead of Motley right here. Motley with 2 and Halen with 4. That's not really good for Motley right now. And Smoking in the Boys' Room versus Unchained. It's a really cool version, this cover song by the Brownsville Station. They do a real good job on it, make it raunchy, harder, and heavy, but I love the song Unchained. That's one of my favorite Van Halen tracks. So Van Halen gets the point. Wild Side versus Jump. Again, that's Van Halen a little bit on the commercial side. Eddie was experimenting with with synthesizers and everything, because, the world was changing at that time. And, oh wait, no. My mistake. Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah, well, I did this wrong, but you know what? I'm making up for it, Van Halen still wins against Motley. Home Sweet Home, that's, again, they're going commercial. I'm tired. Please forgive me on this. Now, back to where we were at, Wild Side versus Jump. Again, Wild Side is really awesome. Mick Mars' guitar and Tommy Lee's drums and, Vince Neil's vocals are just out of sight. Going against Jump. Jump is a really good tune as well. I mean, this is where Van Halen was really doing their commercializing themselves. David Lee Roth was not happy with the whole synthesizer thing. And there's a big argument, egos clashed, and Dave was out of the band at that point. Jump's an okay song, but I've got to give it to Motley. Girls, Girls, Girls versus Panama. Well, Girls, Girls, Girls. Not a big fan of that song. Dr. Feelgood versus Hot for Teacher. Hot for Teacher. Kickstart My Heart against Why Can't This Be Love? Yeah, Kickstart My Heart. I love how it sounds in some of the open world crime, violent video game ads that used to come on TV 20 years ago. Same Old Situation versus Dreams. Why Can't This Be Love and Dreams from 5150. This is when Sammy came to the band, and he contributed an awful lot. But yeah, let's see. Same Old Situation. You know what? I prefer Dreams over that. Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away. Now, this is where I added a couple tracks to Best of Volume 1. Okay? What should have been, just like with Hot for Teacher, And same thing with Motley Crue, where Live Wire should have been on. Now we've got Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away going up against Cabo Wabo. I have to go with Cabo Wabo. Yeah, I added Cabo Wabo from OU812 to this best of. This song should have been added along with, let's see, okay, Without You versus Finish What You Started. Finish What You Started. Primal Scream versus Pound Cake. Pound Cake. Oh, wait, I'm going to get to cross something out. I forgot to add Right Now to this roster. So you know what? I'm going to get rid of a couple tracks. Okay. And I'm going to add another track too. Cool. I was hoping for that. All right, let's see. Sick Love Song versus Right Now. Right Now. Afraid versus Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. Oh, wow. Motley's really tanking in this one. Can't Stop Loving You versus If I Die Tomorrow. Yeah. I'm going with Can't Stop Loving You. Saints of Los Angeles versus Amsterdam. Amsterdam. And don't get me wrong, I love If I Die Tomorrow. I really do. And let's see. Humans Being versus The Animal in Me. Humans Being. So, at this point right here, wow. I cannot say that this was 3 in a row that Van Halen won in this album versus album, track by track. This is their third one they won. If they would have, let's go back. If they would have beaten Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers in the last one, this would make it, they would have been, 3 in a row, and this would have been 4 in a row. And let's see, you got Van Halen with 5, and you got Motley Crue with 5 and Van Halen with 15. So Van Halen, yep, winning. You see, that's the thing. Instead of doing the 2 bonus tracks with David Lee Roth, Me Wise Magic, that's what I crossed out. First I crossed out Eruption, and then I decided I wanted to cross out Me Wise Magic, and You Can't Get This Stuff No More, because, yeah, sure, back at the time when this came out, Van Halen invited David Lee Roth back to the fold, to do a best of album, put 2 extra tracks, and there was a big turmoil, they fired Sammy Hagar quit, and, there was like a big problem, a big issue, and there was an album due, and, because they were under contract, I guess, I don't know how it was going, but, they ended up, after the 2 tracks, they ended up getting rid of David Lee Roth once again, and we know that sad train wreck we know is Van Halen 3 when Gary Sharon of Extreme joined the band. I gotta tell you, when that time happened, I remember I bought an issue of Metal Edge magazine at Publix, in Fort Myers, and they had, remember how these magazines, they used to have those pull-out posters that were folded in 4s? You'd have an image of one band on one side, and you flip it over, it was a image of another band. Well, I remember it was a poster of Pantera on one side, and then there was a poster of Van Halen on the other side. And you see, Van Halen and Pantera are also two of my favorite bands. And the Van Halen that was on that side was with Gary Sharon. So yeah, I was not gonna put that up on my wall. So I let the Pantera side out over Van Halen. And that was very short lived. I mean, the tour didn't do as well. It was like Motley Crue when they replaced Vince Neil with John Corabi and they came out with that self-titled debut. And they had like one single, and the album didn't sell, and they had poor concert sales, concert attendance and everything. And it just was bad for Motley. But if Eddie would have just put out the best of album with all that was released so far and figure out what was going to go on instead of bring David Lee Roth to the fold and have that turmoil, I think everything would be fine. But nope, you know how that all went. And there were a lot of those fans out there, the David Lee Rothers, that were like, oh, great, Dave's back in the band. That means the real Van Halen is back. And no. And, nothing against David Lee Roth. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I started listening to Van Halen when I was 9. And the first time I heard him, Sammy Hagar was in the band, okay? I mean, I love both versions of Van Halen, just like I like both versions of AC/DC. And I love the non-makeup Kiss era, But, everybody needs to chill. Everybody's got their own thing, what they like. And there's no reason to beat each other up over crap. It's all BS. We all like, there's people who prefer Sammy Hagar, and there's people who prefer David Lee Roth, and nobody's better than anybody. Everybody's got their, like, people prefer to drive a Chevy Camaro over a Ford Mustang, or some people prefer to drive a Ford Mustang over a Chevy Camaro. Everybody's got their taste. But at any rate, I was looking at the calendar on the wall for our mystery ride that's going to take place in August. And as you could see, I've gone ahead and I've crossed out Thursday, and we got 14 more weeks of this. So get ready. I know you can't wait and I can't wait. And at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and watch a movie or read a book, maybe play some Pac-Man, and then turn in by listening to maybe some Van Halen or Motley Crue. Until then, this is your old pal Russell J.S. wishing you always keep it real, keep it chill, keep it fresh. Keep listening to 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s rock, or whatever music from 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s you prefer. Keep playing Atari and Nintendo, or Intellivision, or Pong, or Odyssey. Watch classic movies, classic TV, and as always, I wish you Godspeed. May the Force be with you always.